Hello everybody, I'm doing a video about how we use IP to use the Sky remotes everywhere when we've got the boxes in one room. So, this is going to be really dark, just turn the lights on. Back here, I don't know how you can see it, you can't see very well, hold on, let me on the phone, had the torch on. There you go, there's a Node MCU and it's got some wires to an IR sensor. I've mentioned this previously, it's just plugged into the back of the TV. That's the basic stuff. So essentially that's plugged into the TV, and then the IR sensor just detects all the commands from the remote. Like if I press the volume, you'll get the volume light, it'll indicate up there. And that's controlling the Sonos directly. You'll see the light go off. But all of these commands control Sky, all that sort of stuff. You can also do it in the app. So we have this Sky app that I've made. So this lets us down here pick the rooms. It also does some really clever things. Like if you walk around the house, it bases the access point. Well, it works out what access point you're on, and using the access point works out which SkyQ box to pick. You can also do like TV controls, like you can change the source. Oh, this is saying I need to agree with the Android debugging. Oh, flip. But anyway, you get the idea. Anyway. That's not the point. You got all the stuff here. You could just swipe through the pages like this. That we are going to build this add to lock screen function that's coming. But essentially all this does is send commands upstairs to the server. It's all fully authenticated. Like if I reopen that, I've got to do the Face ID for the app. And then it'll work out who I am and all that sort of stuff. So it knows everything about us. Search. I'm going to work out keyboard and all that sort of stuff. So now I'll go to the computer. I'm going to start with the code for the Node MCU, but I'll explain how it all works. So ignore most of this, like all this. This is a library for Samsung SmartThings, or what was Samsung SmartThings, to allow you to use Node MCUs with them. We still use that to do the custom code that I do. I've kind of used people's components that they've made and tweaked them in the way that I want them to work to do what I need them to do. But essentially, this is the code that's running. It's pretty simple. So you just import in the libraries for the IR and stuff. And it's got an IR pin set, and essentially all it does is send. It's either a post. It's a get. It literally makes a get request to this IP, which is a server on our network, and then it appends $TV, and then what I've given is an ID of the TV, which is con. It's the conservatory TV, and the command, which essentially is just a hex decoding. We just hex decode the IR, and then that just gets sent to the server. That's literally how this works. That's how the code on that device works. I wanted to keep it simple there because it just is simple. But I do actually need to update this at some point, because as you'll see in a minute, we're now doing something clever. I'll come over here. So this makes a request to the server, which is this TV IR con. So this TV IR control. If TV is con, what we're actually going to do now is we actually forward on the request to our brain server. So in my smart home, we have the concept of the brain, which is this component that runs, which is a Node.js function. It's a Node.js system that's the core function, and all commands happen through that, and it sends most of it to the PHP backend, but it all goes through this just so that we can do it in async, and it can handle termination of web requests and stuff like that. Because the PHP functions can return information that it then uses to spin off other services. So this just makes a request to the brain, and it says, you run device 48227, run this command, remote IR, and then whatever the command was, which is still that base 64 encoded character. We wait a while, and then we return. Essentially, the reason we wait a while is if you don't wait, you can spam it with the same command like 4 or 5 times. So I found that this works relatively okay just to deal with that. I should update this code. I could probably put the wait in here, make it better. But I'll admit,
It works. Excuse me. Yeah. So then this is just connecting to the smart home system via other things to make all this other stuff work. Interesting. Interesting. That's still the core habitat up here. That should be changed. But anyway, coming over to the brain. I've got the brain open here. So this is the brain, which is the home server. As you can see here, brain. That eventually gets mapped to this brain 2 function, which then does a load of stuff. But we're going to be looking at the TVIR.php driver, which essentially just creates a class of TVIR. Oh, hold on, sorry. Let's go over here. So let's skip back. I've come over here because we're at this is the TV device. This is the device that's at that IP. And as you can see here, it's got a command in the command v2 section of remote IR, where you can type in the commands. Like, I give it that hex value, and it'll do it. It's got information about what room it's in, all sort of stuff, type, and then it's got some system configuration. So TV con, that actually means that's that TV value that we put in the get parameter. The lights, that's the device ID of the light controller for that room. Then you've got the SkyQ IP. That's the IP address of the SkyQ box on the network. You've got the Sonos name. That's where it'll find the Sonos. And you've got the TV IP, which happens to be, in this case, the domain name for controlling the TV directly, which we use for ADB when you're like doing TV commands. Yeah, so then you just type it. It just sends in here. It's just sending this essentially. So let's look at this. So this has got some functions. I'm just going to check if there's anything obvious that you probably shouldn't see. Probably, but we'll go with it anyway. No, it looks okay. So basically, the TVIR function, we take the command that you sent in, and we just go through this list of switch statements and say, you sent this command. This command actually maps to up. This command, this took forever, but that's essentially what it does. It maps the commands. We map them. And then we map them all. So like we've got send commands. So send commands is essentially a backend command which goes to the SkyQ control plane, which we'll eventually get to, which goes to control, gives it the IP and the command. That's the root command. Then there's some Sonos, so we can control and set the Sonos and all that sort of stuff. That also sends a notification to the TV. Yeah, stuff like that. But this is relatively simple in how it actually works. It can control the blinds. That's not actually specified there because the blinds is like a custom case that we built. But yeah, so essentially that sends that command to, what is it? Control and then the IP with that on that port, which is actually back over here. We've got it back up over here, which is this, which essentially uses Express to do the what's trying to say? It uses Express for the API. Uses body parts. Then there's this. Somebody's built this library. I didn't build this. This is just a library I've downloaded on Node and npm. And essentially all we're doing is doing control to post or get, on this port, and then it just returns a thingy. It just turns an end okay, and it just logs out the command, and it just sends that to the IP address we set. That's simply how this works. It works shockingly well. We have zero issues. Yeah, there are probably ways I could make this quicker. There's a lot of steps. I won't show you how the app works, but essentially the app doesn't use the home controls, but it does kind of. It doesn't send it to the device explicitly. It will just send it here as the root. But it uses part of the home system for looking up what device to do it in. We have a global device database thingy which this just kind of bypasses because it's statically assigned. But that's kind of that. I just thought I'd explain it. Hope that's interesting to people. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, but it's shockingly good, and it means that we can put the SkyQ boxes anywhere in the house. This is the code. It's simple, you see? Simples. Thank you.